Hey everybody, what's going on? We're here for another awesome Dominate the Diamond show. Duke Baxter, Steve Nicorak, we're inside Zone Sports Academy, and we got some really cool topics and a lot of really good stuff to talk about. Make sure you're letting us know in the comments where you're watching from. What level coach are you? How many years have you coaching? All that good stuff. I know we're getting ready to head into fall ball. For some of you, it's fall ball season. For some of you, you're taking a break season. But Coach Steve, you ready for today?
Yeah, and like Duke said, we're ready for fall ball. We had all our teams inside last night. We got rained out, so it was a little chaotic in here. We had about 12 teams in here all at once and using different cages and different space, but it was exciting. All the new guys were coming in, getting their uniforms. We were doing our player-parent meeting, which we talked about last week. And the kids are getting ramped up. You know, we're starting this weekend. My team, we're going up to Rhode Island for a college showcase, and all our younger teams are getting ready to start off with their first fall tournament. So it's an exciting time for us. We got a lot of good stuff to cover today.
Yeah. I think you know, when you talk about college showcases, it's almost like those kids that are 16, 17, 18, it's almost just like the younger kids getting ready to go to a tryout. Right? Can you talk a little bit about like how you're going to prepare your guys and what to expect in a showcase and how it kind of ties into what tryouts are for younger guys?
Definitely, it's a stressful time for these guys. You know, they're on the field, they're taking BP in front of 10 to 15 colleges at once. You know, pitchers are on the mound with a radar gun behind home plate. A lot of them for the first time, and you know, I've tried my entire coaching career with these guys to prepare them for this. You know, this kind of exposure or this moment. And it's doing all the little things correctly. So when they were 11 years old, making sure that their shirts were tucked in, that their hats were on correct, that they carried their own equipment to and from the field, that they always sprinted on and off the field. And my goal during that time was to prep them to make sure that when this moment happened, they didn't have to change anything. They just had to play the game and have fun and, you know, stay true to who they were, which at the time, a lot of guys were wondering, you know, why are we sprinting on the field? Why are we sprinting off? Why are we cleaning up the dugout after the game? So all those little things that matter so much to college programs down the road, I tried to prep them for. So now hopefully we go into Rhode Island and, you know, it's seamless. It's like nothing changes. They're just ready. They've always played the game a certain way, and they're going to go in there with that certain expectation. But referencing the tryouts, you know, for those younger guys, it's also stressful because now they're going and they've got myself and Coach Duke and our entire staff sitting there evaluating. And they're going through an actual evaluation for the first time where coaches are out there and they're watching and you know, from our standpoint, we're watching everything they did. You know, everything they do, to how they handle themselves after an error, to what kind of body language they have, do they pick up their teammates, because all those things really do matter, especially when we're picking our team. We want to make sure we build that good team culture.
Yeah. You know, yesterday we were talking about how the Yankees were playing and Josh Donaldson made an error. It was kind of a little short hop that he kind of lifted his head up a little bit, missed it. Shortstop gets the ball, throws it in, and you see Josh Donaldson just kind of pound his chest and point to the pitcher like, I got you, get me another ground ball. And he pounded his glove like as a reset button, and we posted it on Instagram, and I thought it was and a lot of people started talking about it as, you know, we started and almost are finished with our mental conditioning course, and it had a lot of those same elements of, hey, when you make a mistake, instead of putting your head down, sobbing, walking around, instead it was, hey, let's go, I got you, get me another ground ball, we're ready to go. And then you saw him turn his head, pound his glove, that was his reset button, and he got ready for the next one. So we videotaped it, we posted it. So how often do you as coaches see your players get down on themselves, and after they make an error, after they strike out, after they throw ball 4, how do they rebound? How do they bounce back? And in our new course, we're going to talk about ways for you as coaches to help your athletes and to help your players bounce back fast. But that was just something that, you know, we had just got done with our course and doing it just for those reasons. And then here you see a big leaguer, you know, doing everything the right way, and you know, hopefully, you know, kids can learn from that and watch that, and those are the things, you know, that we're doing. Another thing I saw that you know, we get asked this question all the time is, man, my son or daughter does so well in the cage, but how do I take that swing that we work so hard on into the game? How do we take that practice swing and that confidence of that swing and bring it into the game. Coach Steve, do you have any tips for that?
Yeah, I think it all comes with a consistent routine and finding a way when you get into the batter's box to flush out everything else going on. Because you see kids in the cage, they're fearless. They have no fear. Their mom or dad's throwing to them. They're getting strikes. They're taking good full swings. And then they step into the game and fear sets in, right? It's, what's my batting average? What did I do my last at bat? I don't want to miss. I don't want to let my team down. They're looking at the scoreboard. They're wondering how fast the pitcher from the other team's throwing. All those negative thoughts come in. So a good routine on getting into the batter's box, having like that again, routine to get in there and flush everything else out. That flush it. What can I do to get in there and flush out everything? My third base coach, my dugout, my parents, and kind of get into my zone. Most kids don't have it at a young age. They get in there, they step up to home plate, and they're ready to hit. You watch a lot of major leaguers, they get in there, they tap home plate, they fix their batting gloves, they add in that big deep breath, and I think you can ask every single elite hitter. They get in the batter's box and they have a plan, they have a thought process, and not a lot of it's around mechanics or failing, right? They're in there, they're trying to hit a ball hard, they're up there with an approach, they're looking for a certain pitch, and that's one thing I always try to instill in my hitters is get in there and you can leave your mechanics in the dugout, because at that point it doesn't matter. We've got to be on time, we've got to be aggressive, and understanding that you're going to fail, right? And it's our job as coaches to let our players know it's okay to fail, it's okay to swing and miss. It's okay to strike out sometimes. It's okay to make an error. And it's our job, again, as coaches to make sure that we don't instill any more fear in them. They're nervous enough as it is.
Yeah. Good. I think that leads us right into the first question. A Facebook user asks, how do you get your team to stay consistent from week to week? For example, practices. 1 week will look great on the field, and next week it looks like we never fielded a ground ball during practices. What can we do? And I think that a lot of that goes, sometimes practice on turf fields. Next time, see if you can practice on a dirt field, because there's a difference between fielding on turf and then fielding on real dirt and on grass. So if you can mix that up a little bit, I think that's really important, because turf hops are way different than high grass or all dirt fields, those kind of things. So I think that you getting the kids to where they're feeling confident, when they're fielding and when they're playing, the better it's gonna be. Just like Coach Steve said with the hitters, taking that practice swing into the game, it's about confidence. It's about knowing you're ready. It's about taking that swing that you've built and being able to just take it right into the game. Well, fielding is the same exact way. And you need to make sure that if you can get there a half hour or an hour early, get some ground balls on the actual field that you're gonna be using in the game. That way you are prepared, they're prepared, and you're kind of just getting them mentally as ready as possible, because sometimes when they're not mentally ready, or like, oh my gosh, we're playing on a dirt field today, what do we do? Now all of a sudden they're sitting back on their heels, they're letting the ball bounce more, but I think that practicing on as many different types of playing surfaces as possible is going to help get them as confident as they can be.
Yeah, and the other piece I was going to add in was us as coaches setting the tone early. And Coach Morrow has a question about any tips on pregame talks to get 10U kids, girls and boys, focused and ready to go. And I think it ties in with the first question that we just had on us making sure that we get there, we set the tone, we have a practice plan, our assistant coaches know exactly what their jobs are for practice. We utilize the whole field, we break them up into small groups, all the things that we talk about for our perfect practice routine, but making sure that we're prepared as coaches. So when we get there, we've got a job to do. I know what I'm doing, Coach Duke knows what he's doing, Coach TJ knows what he's doing, and we roll into practice like that. We have 3 groups of 4. That's our 12 kids. We break up, we keep them moving. I think you start to see a lax in the focus and the effort when there's some standing around. But when you have a group of 10, 11, 12-year-olds, they get there and they're moving, they have a specific job to do, they have a task to do, and we try to create competitions out of everything. That sets the tone right there. We don't give them an opportunity to be lazy or lackadaisical and hang around, because they get there, we go through our warm-up, we have our pregame, our pre-practice talk, and here we go, we're rolling into it. We've got 90 minutes, let's make the most of it. So, I think it starts with our energy, our being prepared, and making sure that the practice plan is written, it's drawn out, our assistant coaches know what they're doing, and we roll right in. And there's no standing around, there's no wasted time.
Yeah, I think one of the other keys is the IOU mentality, right? So if I'm in the infield, I have to first say, if it's hit to the I stands for infield. If it's hit to the infield, where do I go? So if I'm a second baseman, for example, and there's a runner on first base, if it's hit to the infield, what am I doing? Well, if it's hit to the right side, I'm going to make sure that I cover the bag. If it's hit to my left, I know where I'm going. And if it's hit to me, what do I do? Then I'm thinking to myself, the O. I owe you. O is for outfield. If it's hit to the outfield, where am I going? Right? So now, okay, if it's hit to the outfield, am I the cutoff guy or am I covering the base? And then if it's hit to you, what are you going to do with the baseball? Runner on first base. If it's hit to me, if it's hit to my right, I'm going to throw it to second. If it's hit to my left, I'm going to throw it to first. So if the players are always thinking those three things, if it's hit to the infield, what am I doing? If it's hit to the outfield, what am I doing? And if it's hit to me, what am I doing? That way I'm kind of preparing myself and getting ready for anything that could possibly happen. So I think that'll really help your players stay focused because they're going to know what to do mentally, and it's going to help prepare them. So I think that'll help.
Coach Collins has a good one. Coaching a 9U rec team, an 8U tournament team, Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Any fun drills for catchers throwing down to second and third? Coach, that's a good one. A lot of times catchers don't get a lot of love in practice because they're usually catching bullpens or they might be catching, in a simulated game. But if you're actually working on throwdowns, I love using a stopwatch, right? Challenging them to get the ball to second or third in a certain amount of time. I love setting up targets. It could be a tire, it could be a bucket, it could be a net, it could be a ball sitting on a tee. And you're doing a throwing accuracy competition, whatever it might be. They get certain points for hitting the net. They get X amount of points for hitting the tee, and they win if they hit the ball. But I think any time you can create a competition at practice, it could be infielders, it could be catchers, the better off that you're going to be, and I think the kids are going to get a lot more out of it. They're going to be focused, they're going to be energized, and you put a prize, something as simple as a piece of bubble gum on the line, and they're going to get fired up to do the drill. But I love doing target practice. I love using the stopwatch, giving them a certain amount of time to get that ball to that base, and I think that they're going to get a lot out of it.
I think another thing you could do in there also is have runners on second base and work on balls in the dirt, right? So you have your runners at second base, and they're actually reading the ball in the dirt. So the coach is throwing the ball. Sometimes they'll fire it and throw a strike right at him. If the guy's got too much, they'll backdoor pick to second base, and maybe they can get it out at second. Other times, the ball's in the dirt, they're blocking it, the guys are taking off and they're throwing it to third. So now the catchers have to decide on what's going on, because sometimes some of the runners are going to guess wrong. They're going to think it's going in the dirt and it doesn't, and then they just take off like a delayed steal and you throw them out. Or they take their secondary lead, they think it's going in the dirt, and they just freeze in the middle, and you have to make a decision on what you're doing. So you can also add runners to what Coach Steve's saying, add runners in different situations like that, and that'll also help getting your catchers kind of in that in-game mode, and it's also helping your runners as well, reading balls in the dirt and that sort of thing. So that can help us also. Coach Mike says, I read the book Winning the Next Pitch. It has some great tips for this. Look at the Hawaii team from the Little League World Series. They did a lot of this. We always talk about that. So what next pitch? It doesn't matter what just happened. It's what you're going to do next. It's the next pitch when you're hitting. If it's 0-1 and you just took a ball right down the middle, what are you going to do with the next pitch? So many kids go right back in the batter's box and they're, man, that was inside. I got to make sure I get out in front. Next thing you know, the guy throws a curveball or a slider away and they're swinging in instead of just, okay, resetting themselves. Let's focus on what we're going to do next, and let's try to drive the next baseball. If I throw ball 4, okay, let's reset myself. It's the next pitch. Let me get ahead with the next strike, not hit the next batter because I'm still thinking about ball 4. But I think that is a great book. I think there's a lot of mental conditioning books out there that are really good, and it really helps with that. So thanks for that comment.
Like every good player has the ability to slow the game down. And you watch, for instance, I'm a Yankee fan, so I love watching Aaron Judge. He looks so calm and relaxed in the batter's box right now. And, I think a lot of it goes back to breathing. It goes back to, like Duke just said, focusing on the next pitch. So what? Move on to the next one. And they just have an ability to relax and calm down. I've coached players where, they chase one pitch above their head, and I'm coaching third base, and I know they're going to strike out. I know at that point they're going to be so fired up. Like, it doesn't matter where this ball is thrown, they're going to go up there and swing. So coaches, it's our job to teach them, like Duke mentioned earlier, the reset button. Take a step out, take a big deep breath, and find a way to slow the game down, because it speeds up. And kids get stressed out, they get freaked out, they're worried about looking silly on a previous pitch, and before you know it, the at-bat's over. So finding a way to, in their routine, it might be finding a focal point on the barrel. It might be, fixing the batting gloves. It might be spitting on your gloves and rubbing some dirt on your hands, whatever it is. But to find a way to flush out everything so what, move on to the next pitch.
Awesome. Coach Bill says, I have a 13-year-old pitcher. He's stuck at 60 miles an hour. He has crazy good control with all of his pitches. We always hear about throwing long ball to create more velocity. Any other moves to help him get over the bump to move past that 60 mile an hour mark? Well, we're gonna add in the comments Mikey Nicorak's arm activation routine, and it deals with having some bands, some Jaeger bands, and some different moves that can strengthen the little muscles in the shoulder, both shoulders. But it's also great to just get the body warm, get the shoulder warm, to get it ready to throw. So it's not just for pitchers, it's for position players, it's for any throwing athletes. But you can click on the link, download that little arm activation exercises. We also have in our on our website, you can get a 3-day all access to all of our courses. We have an awesome pitching course that Mikey put together that's everything and anything from arm strengthening to pitching routines to pre-pitch and post-pitching routines. So there's all kinds of really, really good stuff in there. I think a lot of that stuff's gonna help. He talks about how to use your legs. He talks about throwing mechanics. But one thing that I would say to that, which I read right in the beginning, is he has crazy good control, and that definitely trumps him throwing 63 miles an hour and giving up some of the control. You know, so many kids you see and they throw hard, but they throw balls all over the place. Well, they're not pitchers, they're just throwers. They're just hard throwers. But when you can hit your spots and you have crazy good control, that's how you pitch, that's how you get out. So click on that link, arm activation routine, that'll help, and get our free 3-day trial. Look at our pitching course, and there's definitely lots of great stuff in there for you to help your son get better. But thanks so much for the comment and the question.
Yeah, I think Duke is spot on right there. I think without seeing him and without really looking at his mechanics or seeing how his body moves or his size, it's tough for us to give you, that specific, fix-it drill. But I think, like Duke said, having control at that age is so key, especially moving up to the big field. 13U pitcher, the velo is going to come. Sometimes, like Duke said, guys chase velo and then they lose everything else, but they can throw 74. Well, yeah. At this point right now in his career, it's staying healthy, it's being on a good routine, it's making sure that his mechanics are clean, and then the bigger and the stronger and, the more in-depth he gets to down the road pitching, when it comes to his mechanics and making sure his body's moving efficiently, all those things are going to help with velocity. But I think he's at a good spot right now. There's not a big difference between 60 and 65 miles an hour. And honestly, at 13U, it doesn't really matter. If you've got a pitcher that can locate, those hitters are going to get themselves out. So I think he's in a good spot right now. But like Duke said, check out the free trial, because there's a lot of good stuff in there that might pertain to him.
Coach Thomas, coaching my first 8U tournament this weekend. Any tips as a coach to be ready for? Be ready for everything and anything. That's the best advice that we have. If they're 8 years old, you're gonna have kids that forgot their belts, are gonna wear their hats sideways. You're gonna have kids that are just getting there on time. Like, have your rules, but just have fun with them. You're gonna see a lot of things that you've never seen before. Like Coach Steve says, always have a notebook in your pocket. After you write the lineup card out, make sure you have that in your pocket with a pen, and just write down and jot down all the little things that you did great and the things that you didn't do well, and that's what you're gonna use for practice. The things that you did do well, you can talk about after in the post-game speech. But watch everything, keep your eyes on everything. Make sure you have somebody that's coaching third, coaching first, have somebody in the dugout, a parent maybe, just to kind of make sure everyone knows who's up next, where they're going. Just as many coaches and as many helpers as you can to keep these 8-year-olds kind of, knowing where they're going and what they're doing, the better it's going to be. Because if there's just 1 or 2 of you and nobody's in the dugout with them, who knows what's going to be going on in the dugout. That's going to be so distracting to you as a third base coach. So make sure you have somebody just sitting down, making sure the next guy's up, he's on deck, they know where they're going, they know what's going on. Also make sure that when the pitcher's throwing, make sure that somebody's gonna warm them up, because that happens also. The catcher's gotta put his gear on, have somebody, so there's just so many little things. But have a notepad, jot all the little things down, and hopefully you'll tune in next Wednesday and you'll be able to tell us how it went. But it's gonna be a lot of fun, and be ready for anything.
That's awesome. Chad Lowe's got a good one. Just picked up some J-bands. How often is this something I should make part of practice? Daily, once a week? 10 and 11-year-old boys, thanks. I think it's an everyday thing, right? When your pitchers or anybody is getting loose, I think J-band should be part of the warm-up routine, and teaching them at 10 and 11 years old the proper arm care, the proper arm activation. Like Duke mentioned before, my brother Mike put together an arm activation routine. You know, if you can teach them at 10 and 11 years old that this is the way we're going to warm up, it just becomes part of their routine. The same way they would do arm circles. They get there, you know, they do their dynamic warm up, they do their J bands. Hopefully you've got a handful of them, so you can do 3 or 4 guys at a time. You know, we have our J band arm activation series where you can actually check it out and see the exact exercises that they're supposed to do. But I would make it an everyday thing. Every time before they throw, they have to do their J bands, and you're just teaching them the proper way to warm up at a young age.
Coach Robertson, what do you guys do with the kids when they arrive earlier than the start time? What's the best use of their time? Well, Coach Steve and I have all kinds of like pre-game fun things that we do. We call it 2-ball. We have smush balls where we get the kids in a circle. Maybe there's only 3 kids, and they take the 2 balls and they're tossing them to each other, and it's a little hand-eye coordination. There's just some little things that that they can be doing prior to not just grabbing a baseball, throwing, playing catch. Then the next 3 kids come and now they're playing catch. The other guys are done already. So while you're waiting to have everybody, get ready, there's those kind of things. It's just kind of putting their bags, getting their stuff ready. They go sit over next to the batting cage. And that way when the coaches get there, everybody's ready to take BP, go on the field, and then get ready for the game. So, that's kind of what I have for that.
Yeah, and when you say, it's weird having people warm up at different stages, I think it's just letting the kids know when they get to the field, you can't just go down the line and start long tossing, right? We're going to wait for everybody to get there, or maybe 3 or 4 minutes before practice, we're going to start going down the line, and that's a perfect time to talk about your practice plan, talk about the game plan for the day, and then you have somebody lead the stretch. But I always try to tell our guys we have to warm up together. So somebody's going to lead the stretch, and I like nominating, a leader of the day or a captain of the day. So that specific person's going to run the warm up that day. Gets people talking that normally might not talk. Gives somebody an opportunity to feel what it feels like to be a leader for that day. And then you go in from there. If people show up late, that's out of your control, especially at the younger ages. That's when they kind of shuffle down the line and maybe play catch with one of your assistant coaches. But try your best to have everybody warm up together, and that's a good way to set the tone for the day.
Coach Minkus has a good one. Coaching a 10U, 9U team in the Chicago suburbs. You touched on this last week a bit. We're trying as coaches to let the players play and not shout out where the ball needs to be thrown on a given play, but our players may not have full awareness of what's going on. That's good, Coach. Because at the end of the day, they're not. Even when we're coaching 16 and 17-year-olds, they don't always know where to go with the ball. But you'll find out that sometimes what you think they should do and what they actually do sometimes actually works out. Right, the speed of the ball, whether they have a grip on it or not, what they're thinking and what they're doing. Sometimes you're just going to make the wrong play, and we jot it down, or when they come in, like, hey, you went to first base on that, but I thought you could have went 4 with that. And then he'll be like, oh, well, I didn't think I could have got him, or whatever it may be. But talk through all those little things. You can also talk to the players from the dugout before it happens. Runner on first base, no outs. All right, Mikey. All right, Johnny. Plays at second base. Like, you can talk to them and prep them before it happens. We're just not too keen on once the ball's hit and it's in mid-flight and the guy's getting ready to field it and everyone's screaming 2, 2, 2. Now he bobbles the ball. Well, now he should be going 1, but since you're yelling 2, now he flips it to second. He's safe. So there's what they should be doing and then what they actually do. So there's nothing wrong prepping them beforehand. Hey guys, bases are loaded, infield's in, plays at home. So you're talking through, but then they just have to figure it out and do it. And you'll find that as the years go on and as the season goes on, they're going to get better and better at it. And you as a coach will get better at trusting them, writing things down, jotting them down, and then at practice, trying to recreate that same situation. If it was a situation where the ball was hit to the shortstop and he forgot to check the runner at second and he fired it straight to first, well, next practice, you put guys at second base, you hit balls to the shortstop and the third baseman, you're having them check the runner and then throw it. So you just have to work on it in practice. See what they do wrong, jot it down, and then correct it.
I was just going to say the same thing Duke said about recreating those situations at practice. So when I'm doing infield, outfield, or I'm working on cuts and relays, or even taking batting practice, I always try to have runners on the bases. So we might, do, a round of cuts and relays to left field, but we're going to start with a runner on first. So now the catcher's watching the play happen in front of them. Your infielders are lining up accordingly depending on where the ball's hit. And I always try to keep coaches out on the field. So if I'm working with the infielders that day and Coach Duke's hitting, I might be right in the shortstop's pocket. And we got the cleanup hitter at home plate, and we've got the leadoff hitter, the speedster, on first. I might just say to the shortstop, what are you thinking right here? And he might say, ground ball to me, we're going to get 2, we got a slow runner at the plate, we got to make sure this first out in the middle of the field. And then it starts to teach them that baseball IQ. So now before every pitch, your shortstop's saying, all right, runner on first, we're turning 2 right here, or check them, get 1, or he might look at the third baseman and say, hey, you got a slow runner at the plate, make sure we lock it down, take your time. Those are all the things that they're going to learn as they get older. But like Duke said, if you can recreate those situations in practice, put base runners out there, try to create a little bit of chaos, right? Put fast runners on the bases and say, do whatever you want, right? Steal bases, run all over the place, go first to third, because teams are going to do that against you. So the more you can, create that chaos in practice, when it happens in the game, they're not going to be nearly as stressed out. They're going to go in there and they're going to be able to field the ball, check the runner. Again, when we're on defense, it's in our control, right? So if we can control the baseball and control where it's thrown, the runners can do whatever they want, but they're going to run themselves into outs. But I think Duke was spot on with his answer there.
I wanted to talk about this topic that I saw yesterday, kind of the last 2 days between these two kind of social media influencers. One of them never played in the big leagues, didn't play pro ball, has a huge Instagram following, and does a really good job explaining stuff. And then you have a guy that's in the big leagues, that played in the big leagues, has a ton of Hall of Fame friends, and they're kind of going back and forth. One guy was saying how the pro guy, only knows what they do in the big leagues, and the big league guy was saying how, this guy, just because he has a lot of followers doesn't mean he knows what he's doing, with hitting and fielding, because he never played in the. And the thing that I want to say to both and everybody watching and all you coaches that are trying to do your best, some of you like around here, there are 8 you coaches, never coached before. And they're trying to learn and trying to figure out what to do. And, day to day, Coach Steve and I learn every day, whether it's a 9U kid or it's an 18U kid. And things that we use and drills that we do help that kid. Right, I might not show one kid to maybe use the ball between my back shoulder to drive a ball, because I'm trying to get him to swing down a little bit more because he's leaning back too much. Another one, I might do the total opposite, put it in their front arm and try to get them to swing up more because they're swinging way too far down. And it's like from player to player, from team to team, from age to age, you're trying different things to see what works. And at the end of the day, if that person's successful and you got that kid better or that team better, then it worked. It doesn't matter how much experience you have at this level or that level. At the end of the day, if those kids are smiling, having fun playing, they're enjoying it, you as a coach are enjoying coaching. And so it doesn't matter if you've ever coached before. That doesn't mean that you're not going to be a good coach or be a good leader or help these kids all play again next year and win championships. So at the end of the day, don't walk on the field thinking, man, I can't do this. I've never done it. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have the experience. Everyone started out with no experience, and we just learned it and did that. So I just think that, watching the two guys go at each other, they both had valid points about different things, but at the end of the day, guys, help each other, help the kids get better, and you'll see it every day inside the facility. You go we have 9 cages, and you may hear something different being said to a different player, and at the end of the day, the results are awesome in each cage, and it works for that player. So I just wanted to say that because I think that it's it's a topic out there that's, this is right, this is wrong, you gotta do it like this, you can't do it like that. But if it's working, don't fix it, and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and everybody's going to learn differently. Everybody's going to have different feels and, different cues that help them to be successful. And I've doubted myself sometimes. I see stuff on Instagram and I'm like, man, have I been teaching the wrong thing all these years? But again, it's that every individual is going to learn different. I listen to Alex Bregman, and he talks about his cues at home plate as he doesn't try to turn his body at all. He just thinks get the knob in front of the ball. And then you watch Aaron Judge, and he's swinging uphill. A-Rod, one of the best hitters of all time, tried to swing down. Barry Bonds tried to swing down. So everybody thinks and feels a little bit different, but then when you put them side by side, all of their swings are very similar. So for me as a coach, that teaches me that I can't teach everybody to do the exact same thing or to feel the exact same thing. So I ask a lot of questions. I'll ask players, what you feel right there, or what are you thinking right there? did that make sense? And if it didn't, then I try to move on and teach it the next way. But again, like Duke said, I think, if you've got, you're hard into it and you care and you're focused on the individual as well as the team, I think you're doing the right thing. And don't get too caught up in social media because it stresses all of us out.
True that. Question
from Instagram. Good morning from California. With regard to your practice plan, do you typically dedicate one day of practice to hitting and defense, or do you typically split a 2-hour practice into both?
That's a great question. The question was, when you have a practice plan, do you focus on more of one skill set, like hitting and fielding, or do you kind of do a little bit of everything? We like to, it depends on what we're trying to work on that day, but we try to do a little base running in the beginning, then we have a hitting, and we actually do a hitting and a fielding circuit all at the same time. We'll have, maybe ground balls being done at shortstop. We have our outfielders in center field, and then we have a cage going. And guys will rotate, especially at 8, 9, 10, because they play a little bit of everything. They need to work on fly balls and ground balls, and they hit. So we kind of rotate it that way. But as they get older, it's more position specific. But you go to a college practice and sometimes they'll divvy it up between what they're focusing on or a game strategy. Maybe it's rundowns and we're working really hard on defense today, and then we're gonna have on-field BP. Or the next day it might be we're gonna have 5 different hitting stations and really crank out that, but then work on game situations on the field. And so it changes a lot, but it depends if you're practicing once a week, if you're practicing 3 or 4 times a week. If you're practicing only once a week, you got to work on everything. If you just hit, they're not going to be doing much throwing and fielding. If you're practicing 3 or 4 times a week, you can then kind of map it out a little bit differently.
Yeah. I think it's monitoring their throws too and making sure they're not getting overused. I agree with everything Duke just said. For my guys at 16U, a lot of times we were playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So we would just have a midweek BP session, and sometimes it would be optional. They'd come in for an hour, we'd get our swings in because they've thrown so much from Thursday to Monday, playing 7, 8 games. It's a lot to then come in and work on double cuts and rundowns and infield, outfield, just because of the amount of throws. So Duke was spot on right there. Monitor how many practices you have a week. Definitely take notes during the game to see what we need to work on that week. It might be, like Duke said, it might be rundowns, it might be cuts and relays, it might be pop fly communication, but have that plan going in. Me personally at the younger ages, just like Duke said, I'm a big fan of covering a little bit of everything just to make sure they're ready for the weekend.
Coach Conrad, he's always got some good questions. Here we go. He missed last week, but he's back. How often do you have your pitchers building up arm strength? Almost like conditioning for your body. Might have pitched 50 pitches on Saturday, maybe Sunday throw 15 to 20 pitches, 70% not throwing super hard and no curves or sliders. I think that's a good question because I think that especially as the players get older, they might need to go back-to-back days. But like you said, very, very controlled. If a guy throws, 20, 30 pitches on Saturday, he can come back on Sunday and throw maybe 40 or 50. But some guys can't at all. So some guys just, if you use them on Saturday, they're just burnt for Sunday. Even if they throw 30 to 50 pitches, they can't come back on Sunday. So I think it's getting to know your pitchers and the pitchers being very aware and able to communicate to you as a coach that, hey, you know what, coach, I don't feel like I can bounce back too well, or, and that's going to come with age. It's going to come back with experience. I don't think a 9U's kid's going to be able to say, yeah, I can't really throw on Sunday after Saturday. I don't think he knows yet, but I think that, doing back-to-back days with almost like what you're saying, isn't a crazy idea, but I think it would be pitcher to pitcher, pitching coach to pitching coach, coach to coach would have a totally different answer for each of these. So, not being a pitcher myself, I'm not going to say I have the right answer, but I think what you're saying, does make sense.
Yeah, it does. And I did both in college. I pitched and I played third base. So our pitchers were on a strict program, but they were pitcher onlys. So they threw their one day a week and they threw their midweek bullpen. For me, I played third on Friday and Saturday. I pitched on Sunday. So when Wednesday would come around, I'd have to throw my midweek bullpen session, and it was horrible sometimes. My arm was tired. I didn't feel like doing it, but I had to. I had to get a feel for my changeup, and get a feel for my breaking ball and locating certain pitches. Sometimes it was just 15 pitches, more of a touch and feel pen like Coach Ryan said, but it made sure it got me ready for that next Sunday start. So again, at the younger ages, it's so tough because they play all over the field. They might play a doubleheader on Saturday and play center field and make 100 throws, and then pitch in game 2, and then to have them come back the next day. So I think it's just monitoring and being careful. I think your head's definitely in the right, going in the right direction on building arm strength, but just be aware how many throws they're making on a weekly basis.
One of the questions that we weren't able to get to last week, Coach Steve, was one of the coaches asked, when moving up to the big field, when 13U going from the 50-70 to the 60-90 field, what are some of the key things that we should be focusing on first in the first 2 days of practice leading up to our first tournament? Like, what are some key things that they need to know and we should be working on? And I think that's a great question because there's so much that actually happens, but what are some of the key must-do, go-to things that they should be working on right off the bat?
I think the size of the field is number one, right? You get to the field and throwing from shortstops like throwing from center field to home plate on the small field. So it's getting them acclimated with making the longer throw. I do stopwatch infield, outfield, so I'll time a kid running from home to first base, and let's say it's 4.5 seconds. So now when I'm hitting ground balls to my infielders, they know they have up to 4.4 seconds to get the ball to first base. So it's just getting them used to making that throw and getting their feet moving. Pop fly communication is another big one because the field is so big, and a lot of times on Little League fields there's not much room in foul territory. Now on a big field there might be 30 yards on both sides of the field. So getting them used to moving and who's got priority over who on pop flies. And then the other things that come into play are runners stealing bases and getting your catcher used to throwing the ball down to second base. Pitchers getting used to throwing from 60 feet. It might not seem like a big deal, but that extra 10 feet is huge. You want to make sure that your pitchers get a bullpen in. Hitters getting used to seeing pitching from 60 feet. So maybe you're not doing a simulated game, but while your pitchers are warming up in the bullpen, you've got hitters standing in and shadowing. They throw a helmet on, they stand in the batter's box, and they just get used to seeing that ball and the timing difference. Because I've coached 13U, and I would say probably 90% of the outs are hitters being early. It's that ball's coming in, it's got an arc on it. Guys don't throw hard anymore, and everybody's jumping out in front, and they're hitting, rollover ground balls to their pull side. So I think it's a little bit of everything. I mean, there's so much. It's hard to pinpoint one area of focus, but the big differences are throwing from 60 feet, hitting a pitcher that's standing 60 feet away, and then obviously the size of the field. You're not going to see home runs. I'm a big believer in teaching low line drives and hit the ball hard on the ground at that age. Not that I want them to hit ground balls, but I want them to think a lot more low line drives. Maybe some doubles in the gap, but those 210-foot homers in Little League are now routine pop-ups on the big field.
One of the things I want to finish up with is, a lot of the coaches are asking for drills and trying to keep things, how do we keep things basic, right? And yesterday I was watching watching the Padres doing their pregame, and there was a little pitching machine, and then there was guys just on their knees with the glove, and they were just working on all their picks. They were working on picks to the left, they were working on picks to the right. So it ends up coming back to even the big league guys work on the basics, the fundamentals, the hand drills, the glove drills. One guy didn't even have a glove on, he had like a flat pad, and he was just working on flicking the ball and catching it, and just to take his legs out of it, working more of his hand-eye coordination. And that's why when you see a lot of the drills that we're doing and all over our courses, our drills, we really make it fun. We break it down for the basics, because at the end of the day, you have to do the basic things to be able to make outs. You have to be able to field the ground ball, forehands, backhands, and make plays. There's no advanced plays. Like, people are like, oh, do you have any advanced drills? Well, the way to advance a drill is to speed it up, to do combo drills, and to put stuff on the stopwatch. Coach Steve always talks about putting stuff on the stopwatch. If you know the average guy's running 5.2 to first base, well, get a big stopwatch out there. Hit a routine ground ball to shortstop and have a foghorn that as soon as that 5.2's up, so if the guy beat it out because he sat back and got too many hops, and now he knows, oh, my clock's got to be quicker than that. I have to know how to, when turning a double play, getting that ball, boom, third base to the second base from the first base. under a certain time. So by adding some speed to it and some tempo to it, mixing in some different combo drills, that's another way to just kind of enhance a drill. The speed of it, the tempo of it, and adding a stopwatch to it. But there really are no advanced drills. It's more of the same.
Yeah, we did it yesterday. We had a softball infield class, and we had 3 or 4 girls that are committed to playing college, and then we had a group of 3 or 4 girls that were 12, 13 years old, really just learning the basic fundamentals. And we did our warm-up, we did our throwing program, and then we broke them up by ability level, and we ran the same 3 stations. Duke had a combo drill. I was using the flat pad, working on ground balls, and Coach Julia was working on tags. So we did the exact same circuit, but we slowed it down a little bit for that beginner level player. For me, I was rolling ground balls and talking a lot about the timing and using 2 hands. And then for the girls that were, more advanced, they're getting ready to go play in college, I was back with a fungo and I was hitting rockets at them. Again, working on the quick transfer, working on getting the ball out of our glove. Julie was working on tagging, and Duke did the same thing with his combo drill. We just slowed it down a little bit, maybe rolled the ball instead, or used tennis balls or smush balls instead to get them, to progress a bit quicker. So hopefully in 3 or 4 weeks, they can actually do drills together. But like Duke said, it's the same drill. It might just be taught a little bit slower. It might be taught using different props, but it's still the same fundamentals.
And what we're going to try to do, what we'll try to do next week is we'll try to get a video of that. We'll try to get a video of showing how 3 different drills with 3 different groups are doing the same exact station, but we're just kind of adding a little bit more sauce to it, adding a little flavor to the drill to make it that much better or quicker or slower or that sort of thing. But so keep the questions coming. Remember, all of our content, over 900 videos, are on our Dominate the Diamond website. You can get our membership. You can get access for free for 3 days. We'll put that in the in the comments. You can also go on our site. You can download our perfect practice, our arm activations. There's tons of free resources on there. Watch it. We love the questions. That's what fuels what we're doing every day, what we're going to shoot today, tomorrow, next Wednesday, what we're going to be talking about. So even though the show is over, still add it in the comments. We'll get to it next week, but we hope you enjoyed the show. Duke Baxter, Steve Nicorak at Zone Sports Academy. Thanks so much, and dominate the day.